I want to welcome you to another video presentation. Of course, this is brought to you by Accra, Ghana.com, where we write about Ghana, Accra specifically. We research about Accra. We talk about Accra, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And today, we're going to cover this video, which is a video that we found on YouTube by this creator. Let's give the creator the credit. We belong in Africa. Okay, wow, what a great name for a channel. Now, but the title of this video is pretty interesting, isn't it? It's pretty interesting because if you are sitting in the US, if you're sitting somewhere in Canada or somewhere in Europe, in England, and you're thinking, look, I can easily move to Africa, move to Ghana, and live like a king and live like a queen with my pound sterling or with my US dollars or my euros. Well, this is really a wake-up call for you. And the title says it all. The title of this video says, "The days of living good," right? Or living well, grammatically correct, or the days of living good in Ghana using the dollar is freaking over. It's really over. You know what that means? That means the diasporans, those of us who are thinking about moving back to the continent, and those that are there, and those that are planning, those that are visiting, are going to start looking for other countries that the cost of living or the relationship between the cedi or the local currency, right, is better than the cedi, because the relationship between the cedi right now and the US dollar is not really favoring, it's not doing any good to the diasporans. Right? It's not really helping the diasporans, because 2 months ago I used to send, I remember we were just sending money to Ghana. You send just a little bit of euros and the person in Ghana can get a lot of money. But what really happened is that I think last month the euro just literally dropped. Okay, it used to be 17 Ghanaian cedis to 1 euro. So it was really good. You send just a little bit of euros and the person back home can get a lot of money. But last month, in fact, most people here that I know were discouraged because they didn't want to, which means what that really means was that you need to send a lot of euros in order for the person to get a little bit of cedis, right? But from someone like me, someone who has traded in the stock market long ago and far away, done a lot of technical analysis, it's purely technical. The relationship between the Ghanaian cedi today, now, and also the US dollars is purely technical. It's purely psychological, because traders and investors buy and sell currencies based on their fears, based on their anticipations, and based on their greed. And I personally do not believe that Ghana has the economic backbone to support the cedi at that rate. Ghana doesn't have that, right? Because if you look at it, for a very long time, a lot of people have actually been saying that the true value of the Ghanaian cedis to the US dollar is 50 to 1. Basically 50 Ghanaian cedis, not the old cedis, but the new cedis, to 1 US dollars. Because Ghana doesn't have the economic backbone. Ghana does not have the economic backbone to support its currency. And I still believe that the Ghanaian cedi is still overvalued. It is still overvalued. But let's watch this video and then we'll come back and then we'll talk a lot more about what this young man, well, maybe he's not a young man, what this gentleman is saying.
Greetings from the motherland, kings and queens. Accra. I welcome you all. Well, I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but the dollar is dying in Ghana. The dollar is dying slowly every week, almost every other day. The dollar is getting more weak against the cedi. And what that means is, let me give you an example. Last month, when I paid myself $300, I was able to get 4,500 cedis, which was okay. That's a nice amount of money, you know, to spend from one Friday to the next Friday. And not all the time you're going to spend that. But this week, what's up, buddy? You want to be in the video? But this week,
$300. He needs $300 for 7 days in Ghana. Right? It tells you a lot about how expensive Ghana really is. You need $300. I know a lot of people here in Europe who have decent jobs. They do not need 300 euros for a week. What that tells you is that Ghana is literally overpriced, overvalued. The numbers do not freaking add up.
when I cashed out 300, I only got 3,000 cedis. That's not good, because I have set myself to a particular, spending, as far as me running my AC, the amount that I'm spending on lights, the amount that I'm spending on food at the market. Right now, I'm feeling the pain, and you will feel it too. As you know, I'm taking a break on my building, so that means as of right now, building materials will be a bit higher for me. All right, now this hurts us with the dollar. It's pretty much good for Ghanaians in the near future, but for right now, even though the dollar has went down, the price of food is still the same.
Exactly. The reason why I said that the rate of the Ghanaian cedis to the dollar, or the rate of the dollar to the Ghanaian cedi, is purely technical, because the average person does not really feel it on the ground. If we go to, let's say, dollar to cedis, it's purely technical, right? If you look at it, it's purely technical, right? It's purely technical, which means if you know anything about stock market, if you know anything about technical analysis, you can, this is what a lot of technical traders call the double top, right? When stocks or maybe currency actually rises, get to a certain point, right, it has to really drop, probably to the half of where it used to be. So maybe just around here. And that, again, this is not a recommendation for you to go and buy cedi or to sell the cedi, please. But what I'm saying is that this is purely technical. There is no fundamental support or backbone to the Ghanaian cedi. And he said something really interesting, that this is hurting the diasporians. Okay, it's hurting a lot of people here in Europe, that they don't feel not just comfortable, but they don't feel like sending money back home. They don't, because you're going to have to send a lot of money, a lot of euros, for someone to receive just relatively decent amount of money in cedis. So it just literally doesn't. And what I'm thinking is that if he's really feeling the pain, how many African Americans are feeling the pain? Because they are not relying on cedis. They are not making their money in cedis. That's one of the funniest things about Ghana. Ghana is a country where you can only live comfortably for most people if you are earning a foreign salary. Your income is coming from Europe, is coming from England, is coming from Canada, is coming from the US. Because you cannot earn Ghanaian salary and be able to live in Ghana comfortably. So African Americans are hurting. And if, let's imagine that the Ghanaian cedi goes back to $1 to 1 Ghanaian cedi, right? It's going to cost you a whole lot, even though Ghana is not America. Ghana is not Europe. The people on the ground are not feeling the change. They're not getting any comfort. They're not getting any sense of relief. If you go to the market, the prices are still freaking the same thing.
But the materials is still the same. Now, I'm being told that it has to, I guess, sit there and marinate for a while before it to affect the economy. Someone told me that in about 1 or 2 months, the food prices will come down. I believe the petrol prices has already came down because, you know, if I'm not on my motorbike and you know, let's say days that we go get food from the market, you know, to get from the market to my place, at first day, you know, they was charging 40 cedis. But since it went down a little bit, now they're back down to 30 cedis. But the price of food is still the same. Building materials is still the same. So we're just waiting, you know. But those of us that are here, you know, on retirement, those that had small businesses in America, oh, we feeling the heat. We are feeling the heat now. You know, we come here to Africa saying that, hey, we come here to Ghana saying, I want to live like a Ghanaian. Be careful what you wish for, because we are now truly living like a Ghanaian. Like I say, at first I was able to tip. I would go, I didn't do a whole lot of negotiating when I go buy certain items. Now, certain items I would negotiate, but for the most part, you know, if it's like some toothpaste and they tell me 20 cedis, I'll go ahead and pay the 20 cedis. Versus when a Ghanaian go and they're being told the 20 cedis, you know, a Ghanaian will be like, hey, come on, please, you know, what's the last price? You know, 18 cedis or 15 cedis, you know. So now I'm a big negotiator because the dollar is dying. What shall I do? What shall we do? Leave it.
And here's also the lesson. The future of Ghana, or the economy of Ghana, is still being controlled by the dollar. And that is the sad thing. You see, they left America. So many people left Europe. The other day I was just talking to a friend who has businesses in Ghana. He was just talking about how now it's going to cost him a lot more to do business in Ghana. And he's not really sure if it's really worth it. And what do you have to go through in Ghana because of the conditions? And he doesn't know if it's really worth it because it costs him a whole lot, almost 50% or 70%, 75% more than what it used to cost him. And this is going to get worse if the Ghanaian cedi, a lot of people are celebrating, Ghanaians are celebrating, but do not forget, even the YouTubers do not make some of the most popular YouTubers from Ghana, like the Myers and all that. They do not make most of their money, most of their revenue. They do not generate most of their revenue from Ghana, from the African continent. They generate most of their revenue from those of us watching from overseas, especially the Americans. So, and if their earnings are in US dollars and they receive maybe let's say $1,000, right? $1,000, and what they get is 2,000 cedis, for example, or 3,000 cedis. That is not really good. That is not really, really good. Again, Ghana does not have the economic backbone yet to support that, to support the strength of the currency. It's purely technical. It's based on fear. It's based on the uncertainty that is happening around the world. If Ghana was, let's say, a country like UAE, maybe South Africa, right? So let's listen.
Comment. Let me know, what do you think? If you have any suggestions, like, share, and subscribe to this video. Because us burgers, we're suffering. And what a burger is a person that has lived abroad, whether you are Ghanaian or a foreigner. Whenever you have lived abroad and you come back to Ghana, you are considered a burger. And burgers are expected to be big spenders. They, expect you to have more money. That's why they charge a burger a little more money, or any foreigner a little more money. Anyway, like, share, subscribe. Please.
So basically what he's just saying is that the same crappy stuff that we get, okay, us diasporans, when we come back home, we get extorted, we get scammed. And why? Because you think we have money, right? You think, I was just talking to my brother, he was just telling me that the amount of money that I was sending to people back home, I should not be sending that amount of money, because if you're sending, well, he was telling me that money is too much. They'll probably think you have so much money here. Okay, he suggested like 10% of that amount. I think that's, I've said this before and I'm going to say it again. I don't think African Americans, the invitation of African Americans and diasporas to come back home and fix Ghana, I don't think it's a very good idea. Why? The reason why, because I don't think that foreign investors are even necessarily, they are not very good for a developing country or a country that is a third world country. Why? Because foreign investors are pretty much, they are colonialists, right? They have the same colonial mentality. They will own your country, right? If African Americans, all of them, start moving away or re-migrating to other countries or moving back to America, right? You definitely, the average Ghanaian will feel the effect. It is the same thing with tourism. I'm not a big fan of tourism. You cannot build your economy based on tourism. We learn our lessons. During COVID-19, so many countries shut down because the tourists were not flying, they were not coming, and the relationship between the Ghanaian cedi and the US dollar, because Ghana heavily relies on foreigners. Okay, look at even the houses that are being sold. They don't sell them in Ghanaian cedi. They just advertise them to us, to the people in the US and the people in Europe and England and other places. Right, it's the same thing when you look at the hospitality sector. It's the same thing, right? They're building all these beautiful areas, beautiful holiday resort. They are not advertising these areas to Ghanaians, to Africans. They are advertising these areas to the Americans.
Video. I need you guys to please help me start sharing these videos, all right? Let me know what you think in the comments. Anyway, we belong in Africa. Peace.
Me, I don't really care whether you subscribe or not. Okay? I'm not doing this because I wanted to make an income. Whether you subscribe, whether you share, whether you like, or whether you comment, I really do not care, right? If you do, really great. If you don't, it's the same thing. And I just hope and I pray that Ghanaians wake up, especially those that are in position of decision making. I think they know that this is not sustainable. Accra is not sustainable. Ghana is not sustainable if you still rely on the US dollar, if you still rely on foreigners, if you still rely on expatriate, you still rely on us, we the diasporians. Right? It is not sustainable. Thank you very much for watching.